I think we should probably start this session by talking to the bartender. A strange figure towers over the bar, a huge, ungainly man with skin so milky white that his blue veins are visible even from a distance. His bald head is equal parts lumpy and pitted, his blood-filled eyes stare impassively out at you from beneath his pale brows. The glass in the albino's large, clumsy hands looks dangerously delicate, as if one twitch of those calloused fingers would be enough to crush it. A gold medallion engraved with a tankard gleams around his neck. So what'll it be? Who are you? The albino slowly takes your measure with his red eyes, and finally, with a gentle sigh, said, Gemmelhawk's vampire. Are you really a vampire? Gemmel gives you a long look of reproach, then grudgingly answers, No. How did you end up in the Crusader City? How did anyone end up here? How did you, or them? With a huge hand, the tavern keeper gestures at the ragtag group assembled in the room. The world is big, but there still isn't a place for everyone. People who no longer have a life anywhere else, well, they end up here. The medallion you're wearing. Now, Tam has been very studious, right? There's very little to do in a monk's monastery except for study. And the two things that Tam has studied very much are war and religion. So that medallion you're wearing, that's a sacred symbol, isn't it? Are you a cleric of Caden Kalian? I'm a tavern keeper, best in the city, best there's ever been. And I pray to the best god there is. Fair enough. Is there any news in the city? The albino looks around. There are demons everywhere, and you showed up. I love that because it's clearly the fantasy trope, right? You always go to the bartender to look for rumors. And the rumor right now is that the entire city has fallen to demons. Okay, I get it, fine. But are there any places in the city that are worth visiting? If you mean places that normal people usually stay well away from, well, there are plenty. Like the Pataxian wine cellar. Gemmel pauses for effect, like the name of the place should make you quiver in fear. Sorry, I'm not from around here, I don't know what you're talking about. It once belonged to a Pataxian trading house. Then King Iravetti came to power in Patax, and property started changing hands. Soon after, the cellar's shop assistant was found in a ditch. Not all of him, mind, just his head. Numerian gangsters had taken possession of the place. They wanted to sell something stronger than wine on the street, and they ended up on the gallows. Then King Ivaretti's number was up, so now the store stands empty and unclaimed. People say that a headless ghost wanders the place at night, moaning ghoulishly, "Woo!" After coming to the end of his story, unusually long by his standards, the tavern keeper takes a swig from his tankard. Just don't ask me how he makes any noise with no head. I wasn't there, I just tell it like I heard it. I see you're generally not one for talking. Gemmel gives you a long, mournful look and says nothing. All right, show me what you've got. Now, I have a bunch of stuff, including this glaive that I got off of Hosilla, which we're definitely going to equip at some point, but for now, we're just going to sell everything. And I think that's probably all I'm selling for now. Now, what are you selling? Dark Omen is excellent, but way outside my price range. However, I do like this bag of holding, because I do want to be able to sell a bunch of stuff. Sorry, you can't really see it. There we go. Bag of holding means it can carry 100 pounds worth of stuff and not add to my party's carry weight. So we're definitely buying that.
I'll go ahead.
Now, we've already talked to Forn Autumn Haze here, who told us about some sort of elf that needs to be tracked down. And now I think we're gonna, loot first. Then we're gonna go to the basement.
Hey, Chief. Hey, Dreamboat, come over here. I want to talk to you about something. Something really important.
Oh man, I'm gonna enjoy trying to do this guy's voice. Something really important. I think I can do it. Here we go.
Quit bothering the decent people in here, Woljif, or I'll knock your teeth out!
What's it to you, Delvin Dum-Dum? You were told to guard me, and I'm not stopping you. But no one told me I had to shut my trap.
And who are you?
Woljif. Woljif Jefto. I deal in useful things. I can get you whatever you want. Anything. But there's just one problem.
Ah, the chains, yes. So what is it you want from me?
I'll lay it out for you. Simple job, 30 minutes tops. We go someplace, talk to someone, and in return, whatever you want, I'll get it for you. Some extra rations? No problem. Armor, weapons, scrolls, you name it. It's as good as yours. If you need my help with something, whistle and I'll be there. I'm handy enough with knives too, and even my magic know-how isn't too shabby.
Now Tam is interested because Tam wants to be able to be good with knives, but so far he has not been great with them.
What a load of guff! If you were good at magic, you wouldn't be stuck in here now, would you?
It's kind of a fair point, my dude.
Don't you listen to him, Chief. He'd find fault with the Queen herself. I'll be useful to have in battle, and I'll sell whatever you want at a reasonable price. It's your lucky day. You won't meet another gem like me in Canabras.
Seems perfectly trustworthy. So, just for the record, though, why are you in chains?
Does it really matter? Don't get hung up on the past, Chief. Don't look to the future. Live in the here and now.
He was caught thieving.
Thieving, okay. Well, that makes sense, I suppose. And, I saw you do a thing with your shadow. What was that?
Get me out of here and I'll tell you. And don't worry, it's not contagious.
Fair enough, but I can't help you while you're chained in there. I'm gonna regret this, but how can I get you out of there?
That's easy. You know Irabeth? Feisty looking gal, always wears armor. You can't miss her, she's the meanest fighter in the whole city.
I know her.
When you see her, put in a good word for me, will ya? Tell her there's this guy Woljif locked up for no good reason in the Defender's Heart. Well, for the follies of his youth.
Oh, of course.
And he really wants to get out on bail so he can keep up his good behavior and make a contribution to society. You got that? Will you do it?
All right. I'll talk to Irabeth about your situation, but you better deliver on the goods that you say you want to get me.
I knew I could count on you. Knew it the moment I laid eyes on you.
All right, we'll talk later. Now, before we do that, we've got loot. And with our shiny new bag of holding, we can hold a lot more of it. Now, we've got these 3 levers here. 1, 2, 3. And I imagine they have something to do with this button up on the hearth. I'm getting this purely through intuition, of course, and not because I've played through this part like 5 different times. Now, I don't remember the combination, but I remember that 2 of them are in one position, and 1 of them is in the other, which means there are really only 6 possibilities, so let's find them. Up, up, and down. That's not it. How about down?
I know the way.
Down, up. Still no. Okay, how about up, and this one's up,
Follow
and that
my
one's
lead.
down. Still no. How about down, and up? Excellent. That, my friends, is what you call a brute force solution, where you just try all the combinations until something works.
As it should be.
Ooh, we've got a little shrine in here. Silver inkwell, a yellowed letter. Half a century ago, our parents fled their homeland of Sarkoris. The city looked different. Queen Galfrey has recently appointed Holrun the prelate of Canabras. I'll let you pause it and read it if you want. Let's move on. Ooh. We've got a helmet that we can't identify, several scrolls, and a couple of potions. Yes, I need a spellcaster to be able to identify items. Fine.
That
All
is
right.
not far.
Let's go talk to Irabeth. See what she has to say about Woljif. Any success? How is the city? There's a Tiefling. I'm going to regret this. Chained up in the Defender's Heart. What can you tell me about him? Woljif is a petty thief from a gang of Thieflings operating in Canabras. That's what we call them in these parts. They tried to rob a vendor of magical items recently. Unfortunately, we apprehended only one of them, and the rest managed to escape. We have nowhere to keep him apart from the Defender's Heart, but that's hardly a prison. Woljif knows it too. He's been begging us for days to let him go free or have someone vouch for him. He's already asked you to put in a good word for him, hasn't he? If you want to recruit Woljif and put him to a good use, go ahead and take him off our guards' hands. We can ill afford to let a soldier spend their days watching over a middling thief. She literally just called him mid. I hope the Tiefling proves useful, should you decide to take him along. All right, let's go and get him.
I'll go ahead.
All right, Woljif.
Well, Chief, what do you got for me?
I talked to her. You can come along. Just for God's sake, just be decent, okay?
Ah, you must be a smooth talker. Come on, Delvin, get these bracelets of yours off me. I'm going free.
You're sure to regret this. This Tiefling will fleece you for everything you've got. Mark my words.
Yeah, I know.
You're a bitter little man, Delvin. Petty and mean. You can't even be happy for me, can you? I pity you. I'll leave you alone with your sad little soul. So long.
Oh, so sassy.
And now, Chief, straight down to business. You see, I'm one of those guys that people around here call Thieflings. We just call ourselves the family. After we knocked over that shop and I got stuck here in the Defender's Heart, a little bird told me that Big Sister Karisme wanted to see me. That she had some questions to ask me. You following?
Are you in danger?
Now, she won't be asking me questions like, Woljif, how'd you manage to get out of this one? Or, Woljif, you're so thin, didn't they feed you? No, something serious has gone down, and I just know they want to try to pin something on me. I can feel it in my tail. So, I knew right away that I couldn't go alone. You turned up just in time, Chief. You don't need to do anything when we get there. Just stand behind me and look mean, and I'll handle the rest. Somehow. Let's go, I'll show you the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be just that easy. All right, let's go. All right, let's see who it is we're dealing with here. And we'll also see if I can do the Woljif voice. Hey, Chief, want to talk? Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna work together, I'd like to know more about you. How much is more? Are your family Tieflings too? My family. It's an interesting story, actually, but I don't tell it to just anyone. My father and mother had a bakery. Their life was great, but the gods never blessed them with any children. One day, my mother went to the river to wash some clothes and saw a basket floating downstream. Inside the basket was a baby, adorable and chubby and fast asleep. It was yours truly. In my hand was a note spritzed with an expensive perfume that said, "Take care of my little angel." My mother brought me home, and she and my father realized right away that I was heaven sent. They raised me as their own. When I turned 15, my mother showed me my baby blanket. It was embroidered with a coat of arms of an unknown kingdom, all in gold thread. Ever since then, I've been looking for my real parents, but it's not easy. Traveling takes money. So if you have a few gold coins, I'll pay you back as soon as I find my real family. I give you my word. That doesn't sound very believable. Seriously? Man, usually everyone just believes everything I say. People love stories like that, you know? A cute baby, a basket, a blanket, what's not to love? They look at me differently, as if I'm worth more just because the sheets I spit on might have had a fancy coat of arms on them. If I really was a prince, I wouldn't be sitting around here, I can tell you that much. I'd already have gone to take what was rightfully mine. And then I'd come back with an army, so that I could watch the guards and merchants who pushed me around all my life bow and scrape before me. But that's not gonna happen. Want to hear the real story? Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna tell me the real story the second time. Here we go. The true story is boring. My family is human, both my father and my mother. They used to live in a village nearby, I forget the name. When my ma had me, my old man got so mad he almost killed her. Pinned her to the wall and started asking questions, why his son had horns and a tail. Well, my ma told him that her mother, my grandma, used to fool around with a demon. When he heard this, Daddy Dearest got drunk, trashed the house, then took off. I don't remember any of this, of course, but my grandma told me. I was about 3 years old when my mother brought me to Canabras and left me with my grandma. She said to her, "You and your demon have ruined my life, now you handle him." Then she left. Haven't seen her or my dad ever since. She did leave a blanket though, that part was true, but my grandma burned it because it was infested with lice. Wasn't even good enough to use as a rag. You think that after all that, my grandmother saw the light, felt rightly ashamed, and kissed my horns? Ha! I wish. People used to give her trouble for fooling around with a demon, and she wasn't welcome anywhere, so she got angry. Normal kids get bedtime stories, see, but the only tales I got were how my dad was worthless, my ma was a slut, and I was demon spawn that nobody cared about. She only kept me so that I could help around the house and steal things she needed. So that's the truth. And how did you become a Thiefling? I was already a Tiefling, and life made me a thief. I've been in this business since I was a kid. My grandma used to say, if you don't work, you don't eat. And she gave me as an apprentice to Iger, the Tiefling neighbor of ours. He was a cunning old geezer. He knew how to take a purse off somebody's belt, how to cut open bags undetected, even do some magic. I used to climb through basement windows and open doors from the inside while I was still small enough. And when I grew and stopped fitting through the windows, I decided I was done with my education. I repaid my grandma for everything she'd done for me, which was absolutely nothing. Why would I feed her if she wasn't bringing me any money? If you don't work, you don't eat. So I took off. I got bored of my teacher too, but when I as much as hinted at leaving, he said I owed him for my education. So I just nodded, and then I joined the Owlbears, the gang that ran our district, and told them that Iger was working their territory. I don't know what happened to him, but I stayed with the Owlbears. Then their leader started giving me the cold shoulder. I mean, I did steal from him, but never that much. So I had to rat him out to the guards. Then I joined the Golden Hands. That was a good time. Rich pickings. I would have stayed with the Golden Hands, but the Northmen promised me a bigger cut if I told them where the Golden Hands kept their loot. I'm no fool, so of course I told them. After that, I only had one option, to join the Northmen. And then the family came. At first, no one took them seriously, calling them Thieflings and all that, but I felt it right away. They had power behind them, and they had more money. I'm always on the winner's side, Chief. That's why I joined the Thieflings, and right on time. Some thugs came from the capital and made the Northmen leave. The ones who survived are in the family now, too. Why don't you tell me what you think of Canabras? It used to be such a hole, but then the Crusaders and refugees came there and things started looking up. Although it depends on who you ask, I suppose. Witches better steer clear of here because Iomede's followers are ferocious. Especially Holrun Shapak, the local inquisitor. He's a tough old goat. I didn't see it myself, but a serving girl at the tavern told me that her second cousin's son from his third wife is a paladin, and he said that Holrun takes an unsheathed sword with him even to the privy, and when he sleeps, he puts it on the pillow next to him, and when he's in his cups, he strokes the blade and whispers sweetly to it, "You are my one true friend. You are the only one I can rely on." Irabeth's given us a hard time too. You won't so much as look at some nice little bauble, and before you can think of taking it, before your fingers even twitch, she's coming for you with her nostrils flaring and her fangs glinting. Scary woman. But even she's better than Sister Karasimi, our boss here in Canabras. By our, I mean the Thiefling's boss. If you get caught by Irabeth, it's all out in the open. You go to prison or you end up as worm food. But if you step on Karasme's toes, poof, you're just gone. Just like that. No one ever sees you again. All you'll hear is, "He went to the family farm." Never even had a family or a farm. Your shadow looks strange. What kind of magic is that? Ladies and gentlemen, roll up, roll up. No dark magic, no fraud, a trick without any deception. Ta-da! It doesn't do anything, it just looks scary. I remember when I was little, an old beggar showed me and my friends how to make shadow puppets. You put your fingers together in front of a light and it makes the shadow of a deer or a dog or a dove on the wall. I tried so hard I wanted to make my best shadow, and I did. It just happened. Funnily enough, that's the last time I had any real friends. They tried to stone me later, screaming at me, calling me a demon. Tiefling is always a demon to these wimps. Even the lowest ranking drunken gnome thinks he's better than me just because he hasn't got horns or a tail. The poorest beggar in the filthiest gutter thinks he's better than me. Most people would never show their shadow again after that first time, but I don't care. If stones start flying again, I'll just run. I'm used to it by now. It looks formidable. I like it. What about the blue fire? That's my favorite part. It doesn't burn at all. If I had a coin for every time I've caught a beating for my little show here, I'd already be proposing to Galfrey. But still, I don't want to give up something so beautiful. All right, enough. Let's talk later. Whatever, you're free to do as you please. Now, before we leave to help Woljif out, there's a conversation over here that is going to catch Tam's ear. An imposing young Oread is surrounded by a crowd of crusaders who are hanging on her every word. I hope this example clearly illustrates the difference between Jitska legionnaires from the last war and the Crusaders. The perfection of form and spirit they were imbued with during creation turned them into parts of a well-balanced war machine. Not a ragtag bunch of individuals, but a united whole. Now, tell me again why I am supposed to be impressed by your reckless assaults, where everyone else is fighting for their ego and for the right to beat their peers to a swift but pointless, heroic sacrifice. Some of the Crusaders grumble unhappily, but it's clear they are captivated by the woman's words. The only exception is a scraggly and disheveled halfling monk whose puffy black eye gives him away as a brawler and a troublemaker. He enthusiastically pushes forward and tries to engage, but one of his friends swiftly jabs him in the back with an elbow, making the poor fellow pause to catch his breath. Now, Tam has studied war. Again, not much to do when you're growing up in a monastery, so he knows a lot. Let's see what we can find. Looks like we've got ourselves a student of warfare. The woman gives you a suspicious look and raises an eyebrow. Were your words meant to recognize my achievements or start a fight, the way Mendevian crusaders usually do? If those gists of yours, Canaber's crusader, one of the crusaders angrily curls his fist tightly and retorts with a burst of passion. If those gists of yours, or whatever, had come for us, we'd have their guts for garters. You'd think we'd never fought a mighty adversary before. The soldier's stern facade cannot fully conceal his relish. He clearly plans to enjoy this confrontation. The crusaders around him look upon their exotic opponent with a mixture of irritation and piqued interest. The woman chuckles before cutting off her interlocutor. I would love to see you storm a 60-foot-tall walking castle shaped like a gigantic elephant that carries siege fortifications on its back. And I'll have you know, these fortifications were defended by Jitskin priest-craftsmen armed with demon-bound war machines. They used the enemies you cannot defeat as mindless weapons. The woman gives the people around her a triumphant look and adjusts her clothes with pointed nonchalance. Her voice takes on a lecturer's tone. You should not argue with someone who happens to be the most authoritative researcher on the history of warfare 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. What is Absalom? It's a city at the center of the world, a metropolis-sized showcase and the greatest treasures on all Galarian. Got it. The lecture is over. Do my esteemed listeners have any questions? You are wrong to treat the Crusaders with such disdain. Allow me to explain. A debate! Oh, I will be happy to prove that the current conflict can't hold a candle to the last war of Jitska. Very well. The last war of Jitska was waged using a significantly greater number of troops, Both sides actively relied on reinforcements from allied planes, and their strategic planning was perfected through no fewer than 7 rounds of intensive design. None of the above applies to this war of yours. Compared to the Jitska, we are but stone club-wielding kobolds. I would like to conclude my thesis with a few words of wise counsel from Dagon, an advisor to the Pharaoh of the Forgotten Plains. I doubt you will comprehend the true genius of his statement, but here it is nonetheless. A gadfly sees the ox. The ox pays no heed to the gadfly, but crimson fever takes them both. The events of the past are shrouded in legend, but the fate of the world is being decided here and now. That is what you fail to grasp. The earnestness on the faces of those around you has taken away Indara's panache, encouraging her to backtrack and stumble over words. Of course, I am not trying to diminish the importance of current events. What I'm trying to say is that from the standpoint of history, and particularly the history of warfare... She falls silent, fixedly staring at the unfriendly eyes of her audience. The true importance of these developments won't become obvious until later. As a scholar, I cannot deny there is a certain truth beneath your skeptical statements. History is a complex discipline rooted in fact and an evidentiary base that grows ever more meager the further from the described period is from the present moment. Of course, if I were to argue in bad faith, the way Crusaders embellish their tales of slaying a single Brimarak by adding a dozen Baelors, for example, I could win this debate, but I am above such things, and therefore I'm forced to admit that your skepticism is not entirely without merit. At this point, Tam's going to go ahead and throw her a bone. Yes, I'm sure you would have been able to expound on your arguments in a longer discussion. Indara nods with obvious relief. I'm glad we both understand this limitation. It is always a pleasure to face a worthy opponent, even if the debate takes place in a grimy tavern. Perhaps especially because of that. Here, this is a worthy blade. It will be of use not only for the strong, but also for the wise. And this is where I bid you farewell. Before the end of the day, I was planning to observe how winged demons use pack tactics to drive their prey like herds of livestock. It's about time I get back to my research. The hint of a smile graces Indara's lips when she sees disappointment in the eyes of many crusaders around her. Stay safe. And she's gone. But we got ourselves a nice little stabby tool, which we are going to immediately give to Woljif. Ooh, it's flaming. So it's a +1 flaming short sword. Love it. Still don't know what this helmet is. Okay. Alright, well, without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and head on out. We'll talk to more people when we get back, but for now, we've got a job to do.